as I mentioned, I'm Victoria. Don't have to go through this too much, but I'm an evangelist at Zoho and been working with Marc on a case study, some written stuff, and then a couple of these webinars. So really grateful to have him here for this one.
All right, I think that means this is my turn. So in case there are folks here who weren't at the last webinar that I did, my name is Marc Fishman. The most important stuff to check off here: I am a husband of 10 years, a father to 3 boys, comic book author and artist, Nerf gun collector, a mechanical keyboard enthusiast, but probably most important for today, I am the director of sales and marketing for One Business Solutions. Usually the best question asked after I say that is, what is One Business Solutions? It is a lovely yet slightly purposefully vague title. So we are a group of answering services, contact centers, business process outsourcing, and consulting, which in short means we are a bespoke solution of technology and people built to hashtag do more with less. If you don't put a hashtag in front of it, you can't call yourself a marketing guy. So you just throw a hashtag in front of any phrase and then poof, you're a marketer. So all of you are welcome for that. Now with that in mind, just really quickly through the numbers of my company, who we are and kind of what we do. We are, like I said, a group of centers here, including Call Center Sales Pro, Answering Service One, New Connection Communications, Reading Answering Service, and Seagate Connections. Ultimately, that represents about 125 employees or seats on Zoho. We have about 2,000 customers, and we're about 5,500 interactions on behalf of our customers per day. But in fact, as of late, we've actually been helping a couple of political parties at the polls doing some of their phone bank systems. So we might be doing upwards of 10,000 interactions this month alone. So that's been pretty cool. Now, with all that in mind, what is Zoho One to One Business Solutions? Specifically to what we're talking about today, I'm really looking at both the sales and marketing teams. Obviously, as the director of sales and marketing, these are the suite of apps inside Zoho One that I use more often than not, while my whole office kind of dabbles throughout the One platform. It is kind of my personal goal for us to use every single app in there before the next Zoholics, because I'm sure that's when they give you like a special pin. If they don't, please take that message down, Victoria. Send it up to the people. I want a pin. That's a joke. All right, so let's move on. Today we're talking about creating the customer journey. I really wanted to, after the last webinar, one of the slides that got a lot of attention, a lot of questions, and I don't want to spend too long on this, but hopefully we can all enjoy the chutes and ladders of it all. This is a sampling of what I consider to be a customer's journey. So if you start at the upper left-hand corner and kind of follow the arrows as we go around, you can see how you can integrate a lot of apps inside Zoho One into a single customer experience. Specific to today, in fact, we're really talking about using sites and forms to acquire a lead, which then walks itself to the CRM through an integration. And from there, empowering my sales team to be able to do their job, through mail and sign and all of the other wonderful things. But basically, we're going to focus on kind of that top left corner today. This is really what I wanted to get people to think about a little bit more, and really see how Zoho One itself is a platform that allows you to jump in between these apps to really get one bigger problem solved. Now, one of the anecdotes I do like to tell, I've only been in my job 18 months with One, but I'd say one of the biggest moments I'd had 6 months into the career with One Business Solutions, we were actually at a conference back, pre-COVID, when we could all talk to people face to face. We were in New Orleans for the Medical Group Management Association conference. We had a big booth, and at that booth, as marketing director, my goal was for us to capture leads at the booth. And, there's all sorts of different ways of doing this. People have got fish bowls where you drop a business card or giveaways and things like that. And we definitely had ourselves some interesting prizes. If you stop by, we had a One Business Solutions cell phone battery charger, and we had some cool medical themed pens that looked like little syringes. So aside from giving those out, though, I really wanted to capture a lead, and the way I did this and what kind of sold my owner on what Zoho could do for us is I had the idea of integrating a landing page at our booth so that as our salespeople, and myself included, being able to talk about who we were, they could see all of the content that I wanted to cater to them on a landing page. And at the bottom of that landing page was a lead intake form. We all have seen them. We've all filled them out. But what happens more often than not is you fill those things out, you get that little automated, thank you very much for filling that out. And then what happens? You forget about them, they forget about you, you get back from the conference and it's a wasted trip. Not in our case, because I made sure that the landing form was tied directly to a Zoho form, which was integrated into my CRM, so that when people filled out that form, that lead got sent to my sales team the same way the rest of our leads happen to come in and they get assigned out. And then we had an automated email trigger that sent to your email, not only acknowledging that you filled out that form, but that someone from our sales team would actually give you a call and see what we could do to help you. Not in an overly salesy way, but definitely in a way that helped us really flag the folks that we met and then be able to market to them in the future. So with that in mind, the big thesis to this workshop today, aside from just rolling up our sleeves and showing you, how we kind of built this out, this to me is how I think about Zoho and how I hope all of you will going forward. It's all about defining the problem. And in this particular case, for this webinar, since I did that webinar a month ago, and it was really awesome, I did that, and of course, I shamelessly plugged my company and shamelessly begged people if they were interested in answering services or BPO or call center stuff, that they get out, reach out and touch someone. So what happened afterwards is I got leads kind of everywhere. I got some emails, I got a LinkedIn request, I got someone following me on Facebook and Instagram. One person sent me a TikTok, and it was really disorganized. And I walked away from it saying, okay, if I do this again, how can I improve? So as I put here, my last webinar gave me leads, but they were disorganized and hard to share with my sales team. It was too hard to follow up. Basically, I kept taking these emails and TikToks and Snapchats and sending them one at a time to the salespeople I liked. And of course, the people I didn't like got word of it. They got mad. I said, I gotta do something better. So define the solution. And in this case, clean, organized leads with a maximum of information stored so my sales team can follow up with ease. Basically tackling it the same way that I would tackle going to the MGMA or anything else like that. And once I've got the problem and the solution in mind, then I turn to Zoho to make 1 and 2 work. In this case, following the same pattern, landing page, integrated Zoho form that's tied to the CRM, so all of my assignment rules and automation can launch as needed. So with that in mind, our featured players tonight are going to be sites, forms, and CRM. Now, I know in the lead up to this, the marketing that went out, we also talked about campaigns, and I'll definitely talk about how you can kind of roll here to campaigns. And if people want to see more of that, we can definitely do that. But in the interest of time, suffice to say, by the end of this process, you will have leads in your CRM tagged in a specific way that you want. And you can always look those up inside CRM, export that list, import it into campaigns, and now you can release emails as necessary. So before I get into it, are there any questions ahead of time, Victoria, or should I jump right into it?
I'm not seeing any right now. I think at some point I was gonna say I'm gonna want you to go back to that last slide with the define the problem, but since everyone's gonna get a recording of this, I don't think we need to. But let me just emphasize that that is a really strong way to approach these problems. And I think as Marc is about to demonstrate, that's a really good way to figure out how to kind of fit the tools to your business and your process, rather than trying to just kind of shove your business onto tools that don't necessarily work the way you wanted. But with that, yeah, I don't see any questions. So take it away, Marc.
Fantastic. So I'm going to slide presentation over to my other monitor, which is why I'm looking off screen. We're going to share screen, application window, and there we go. Okay. Hopefully that loaded up. Awesome. Okay. So the first place I kind of want to send you to, and let me clean this up mighty quick. I don't know if I can do this. I'm going to try to drop this in. Copy. I'm just going to throw this right here on the chat. I know it'll get buried, but just in case anyone was actually interested in participating. Now, you don't have to go through this, but if you want to follow along, this is today's landing page. I am shamelessly, once again, shilling for my company. Now, this is Answering Service One. This is our answering service. All of our businesses inside One Business Solutions are basically funneled to the same team. We're all working together. AS1, they just happen to be in Seymour, Tennessee, which is a suburb of Knoxville. Now, this landing page was built for today's webinar, and I'll take you guys through how I built it. But essentially, like I was saying before, if I were to try to sell my business to any of the fine folks watching the webinar today, all of this content, I worked with my marketing team and said, okay, how can we best serve a generic landing page that lets people know who we are and what we do? So we made all of this page on sites, which I'll kind of back up and show you in a second. But you'll see that we've got here the hero area, got a little call outs for the different teams and different types of folks that we do help out, as well as a little call out on our specific technology, the people that work for us, as well as those who want to get into the nitty gritty of pricing and all that kind of stuff. And then at the bottom here are one of those evil, nefarious lead intake forms. And in case anyone here specifically is interested in any of our services, I implore you, by all means, fill this form out. You guys will see what will happen when you do. You should get an email, but I promise you, no one from my sales team will call you while I'm talking. I actually warned them all before this webinar that maybe some folks will actually be interested this time around, and if they are, they can always fill this out. Or really, if you want, you could fill this form out, not tell me you're interested in anything, and then in our little box about anything else we should know, you can just say, Mark's awesome, don't call me. Anyone who would like to do that, you are also welcome to do that. Either way, my boss sees it and she'll be happy. So let's actually talk a little bit about how this was built from the ground up. Again, thinking about problem and solution here, this is sort of the thing where you've got to have a bunch of tabs open and a lot of work happening at the same time. But if you follow along, trust me, it is way easier than it appears to be. So we'll start here at sites. Now, this is underneath the hood. This is actually on sites. This is the site builder. And here is the landing page. We built this outside of the Answering Service One sitemap so that it only exists in this webinar. And if I ever were to go do other webinars or any other generic marketing, I could use this again and again. Here we stacked content. Each of these areas, I'm sure if you guys want more information on like how to specifically build this stuff out, we could always dive into it. But really, this is all about sections of content. We cribbed a lot of this from our homepage. In fact, I just sat with my graphic designer and content team and said, okay, let's grab, the hero area here, but, throw the Inc. 5000 award that we won and the association that I mentioned previously, put that on there. We got a little learn more button to jump people down to the fun content. We grabbed a bunch of logos and a bunch of the clip art stuff that we liked to just highlight these areas, because for all I know, someone on today might be in the service industry or a small business owner. You might be a lawyer or a doctor. We want to make sure that you guys know, oh yeah, I do need an answering service. And then of course I said, hey, pull out these other things because this is what makes us great. And then here is a Zoho Form. And you guys can see here at the top, this is a Zoho Form itself. So as we were building this out, my graphic designer built this page and then just left this blank for me. This was deleted. There was just an add element button here in the same way that I could add an element right here. In fact, if I click it, you guys can see you can add all sorts of content if you're using sites, but what we particularly care about is right here. in Forms. And you can see that you can add a CRM form, a Zoho form, a big in form, which I've not used, or just a generic contact us form. Now I know this is one of those things, again, where Zoho is a big toolbox, and I cannot stress that enough. There are more tools in Zoho than you need at any given time. So someone might ask, well, what's the difference between a Zoho form and a CRM form if your Zoho form is integrated into CRM forms? Well, the big secret is there really isn't a big difference here. Zoho Forms, which we'll get into, happens to have a few more bells and whistles that you could be playing with. Now, the fact that I'm tying it in directly into the CRM is an integrated process, and we'll talk about that as I move on to the Zoho Form portion. But we could have done this entire workshop, and I could have just built this as a CRM form. It would get us to the same ends. It's really, again, just about personal preference. And more, again, about that one slide, your problem and your solution. In my case, this was replicating stuff that I already did. So for me, the solution made it simpler to just link to a Zoho form. Speaking of, inside Zoho Forms. In this particular case, this is the Zoho form that I built. Titled it Zoho Webinar Leads. And then I dragged together all of the elements that I thought were necessary. Name, title, company, phone number, email, what you were interested in, and then anything else we should know ahead of reaching out. I put all of this together just by dragging and dropping all of these related fields in here that I thought were important. Now, there's a lot of other fun stuff that you could actually get into. I myself am kind of an aesthetic fiend, so we tried to keep this as plain as possible. I've already registered all my complaints with Zoho about being able to make these things prettier. I'm sure that's on the bottom of someone's list. But depending on what your specific problems are that you are trying to solve, a lot of those solves inside, specific to your form, are going to be solved inside these rules. Like if you guys have particular, like, hey, I need it to ask a question. For example, we could do a field rule here. So if I said, as an example, hey, if they give me their phone number, then ask for the email. Or if I need, if they click answering services, I could pop down a new question that says, hey, if they click this box, then ask them this question. All of that could be handled in rules. I don't particularly care. Whatever you're interested in, we just want to know ahead of time. Beyond that, of course, very important, having the settings here, what your submit button looks like, if there's formatting that you need. There's a lot of different things you can kind of tag and flag, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but specific to me, what mattered the most is after you fill out that form, we thank you for participating in today's webinar, and I let you know my sales team will be in touch. And that's it. I don't have it going anywhere else. There's no other redirection or anything else. If I'd wanted it, could have put that in here. For example, if I wanted to send you back to Answering Service One's main page, we could have done that. Could have sent you to One Business Solutions. Could have sent you to my comic book site, so you could go like that. I'd like a few more likes on that. But all of that is kind of controlled through what you've got here. Most important from there, themes. If you guys want to get into those, you guys are more than welcome to choose them. But I just kept mine nice and blank. You can also share things out if you need to. But really, the tab that is most important to us today is the Integrations tab. So you build that form, and now you've got all sorts of different places that you can tie that form submission to. Now, any one of these things, I could probably do a whole webinar on, but again, it's not about which one I want to use. It's about what problem am I trying to solve. And if we remember that slide, the problem I'm trying to solve is a clean, organized list of the leads that I might get from today's webinar. So with that in mind, I want to tie that to Zoho CRM. When you click that in, it's going to ask, first and foremost, what module are you sending these things to? Everyone who would fill this form out to me is a lead. So I would populate you guys as leads. Now, depending on how you run your own CRM, perhaps you want to send that instead of leads, you want to send it to contacts or have people set up an account. You could be doing that from here. From here as well, I specifically created a layout, which we can kind of dive into on the CRM side in a bit. This was a technical thing more than anything else, where some of the questions that I ask you, specifically about anything that we should know before reaching out, and those check boxes of I'm interested in. In order to get those to populate correctly, I made a new layout to grab those. So underneath here, these are the field mappings. This is on the right-hand side. This is read a little backwards, but on the right-hand side are my fields from Zoho Forms. On the left-hand side are all of the fields I'm populating inside CRM. So you guys can see the little handshake icon. So it's saying my name last field in the Zoho form that you fill out sends over to the last name inside CRM. Company name to company, email to email, phone to phone. And I replicated my I'm interested in, and then anything you know ahead of time or we should know goes into my description field, your title and your first name. These were done out of order, but in any event, the things that are most important to us after this, 3 check boxes here. Number 1, making sure that automation and process management is clicked. This means that any workflow rules, blueprints, any of those, basically all the fun programmy stuff, I make sure that's checked so that if I do any of that fun programmy stuff, it's going to work. Number 2, assignment rules. Now, in this particular case, again, remember problem solution where I said, hey, I need each of these things to be fair. So as each person, and I know all of you are already running over to another browser tab to fill out that form because it just looks fun to fill out. Every time you hit submit on that form, it's going to hit my assignment rule. And that particular assignment rule that I've clicked on is my lead intake round robin assignment. I've got a couple of other ones in here, but really what's happening in this particular case is it's completely equal. So I have all my sales team members in a round robin. So, you know, the first person who hits it gets to Todd, the second person gets Luke, the third person gets Tracy, and so on. That was very important. And then last, tagging my record. So every time this pushes over to the CRM, I need a way to know that it came from this form. And the easiest way to do that is to tag the record. And in this case, I made a tag called Zoho Webinar. That way, I recognize it when it comes in. All right. Now, with all that done, you hit integrate. It makes sure that everything kind of is active and copacetic. And at that point, you're live and good. With that form, inside here, I'd click Zoho Forms. And here's a list of all the forms that I have saved. I just click that Zoho Webinar lead, and you know it was populated. Now the cancel button is hiding under my stop share, so that's awesome. Hold on. And it's even buried under there, so I can't go back. Sure I can. There we go. All right, and that's how that form kind of populates on this page. Now, once you've got the landing page looking the way you want, you go ahead and you hit publish, and now it's live. You can share that link out with people as you see fit. But we're definitely not done yet because we've got the form, we've got it going where it needs to inside the CRM, but what happens when it hits the CRM? This to me is where the magic happens, if you will. So inside the CRM, inside the little setup icon here to the right is workflow rules. And we click on workflow rules, and at the bottom of my list is my webinar lead assignment. Now, if you guys were going to do this, the first thing you're going to do is click create rule, and that's going to bring you to a screen like this. The first thing it asks you is, when is this rule going to be applied? And what I chose, my options here were, hey, in this case, I'm going to create a rule when a record is created. Because if you guys remember, you fill out that form, it's going to send it to the CRM, and it's going to create a record in leads. So when I do that, I'm going to hit done. And now it's going to say when the lead is created. Now the condition here, remember, we got to find a way to tell the CRM, hey, you've got to go and find all the leads that came out of my form. So it was as simple as setting up when a lead matches certain conditions. So when the tag is Zoho Webinar, which is the one we set up on Forms, then do all the stuff. Now here you guys have a lot of options this is, to me, the most fun that you can have, because this is really where you get to take that problem solution and make it actually work. So the first thing that I needed to do is update the record for my lead source to be organic marketing. So we have a bunch of different lead sources as a marketing manager. This is really important for me because all of my sales data and analytics is all tied to the lead source, because my owner likes to know how much money we spend on every one of those sources. Now, luckily, since I'm not paying Victoria much to be doing this webinar for you guys today, I get to call this organic marketing. So we put that here first and foremost. And then next, I've got some email notifications. I'm going to come back to those in a second. Also very important inside my organization is our use of Click. This is like Zoho's version of Slack or Monday.com, or, you know, there's a million of those chatbot softwares. We use Click. And in my particular case, what I've chosen to do is I am notifying my entire sales channel that a new lead has been added from the Zoho webinar. Please check your email for details, because we've got an email notification going to each salesperson. Now, if I wanted, I could have done a separate condition for when a tag is Zoho webinar and the lead owner is Todd, or lead owner is Tracy, or lead owner is Luke, and just have Luke, Todd, or Tracy individually receive a Click message, which is typically what I do. But in this case, I wanted to kind of alert the entire sales team that I was doing this live. So basically, if any of you have filled out that form, and I'm just going to keep hinting that, like, I hope all of you have, just because it's going to light my Click channel on fire, which will be fantastic. I haven't heard my phone buzz off the hook yet, so we're okay. But basically, it's going to yell at my sales team, hey, go check your email. And speaking of, you guys will see here, I've got 2 emails that fire. Now, the first one goes to the sales team member. Now, when you guys do this, I'm going to actually take it from the beginning here. You're going to actually click on this action button. And in action, you guys can see all the things that happen now if you guys follow from the top down. So when a lead is created where the tag is Zoho webinar, which we know the only way that's going to happen is because they fill out the form, here are all the fun things that you can kind of trigger. I could add a new tag. I could remove the tag. I can notify people via email or Click. I could create a task. I could create a new record. I could convert things. You could fire off a specific webhook or function. If you guys know how to do either of those 2 things, you are way more advanced than you need to be for this one. Please leave and do your own. Just kidding. I'll probably do one of those in, like, I don't know, 2 months. Give me time. I got to learn. But all I particularly use personally is this notification, because you can fire so many things basically straight from the email. And when you guys click email, you'll actually come to a screen like this. It's going to ask you to name the function. Here it's usually generically what it's going to happen. So I say this is a Zoho webinar lead to the sales team. You're going to click for your recipients. In my particular case, I am selecting the lead owner email because it's already used that assignment rule. So when we hit a new lead comes to the CRM, it's going to fire off that round robin. It's going to land in the lap of one of my sales team owners, and that's lead owner email. So that means if Todd gets the lead, Todd gets this email. From there, I'm also sneakily hitting myself in here so I can see all of the leads that do come in. I want to see my email buried when this thing is over. And then, of course, you guys have to select a template. Now, if you don't have one already made, you guys can hit here to create a template. In this particular case, I actually went into the templates themselves before I did this. But if you wanted to, let's say we're going to create a template, you get another tab will open up here. And you guys can see you guys have all sorts of options. This is an email blast, essentially, that comes from inside Zoho CRM. So please make sure you understand this is not campaigns. This is CRM. So you have a limited set of tools here. Now, I personally don't like to do a lot of jazz with the email stuff. So I just chose a blank template. And then from here, you have to give the template a name. You got to give it a subject line. You can drag and drop in this very simple builder. You can put an image in there. You can put some image and text, some columns background. If you guys have a, graphic designer on staff, let them go nuts. Or if you don't, you can use One Business Solutions to do stuff like that. But that, again, is just a shameless plug. So when you're done with building that whole thing out, you're going to hit save. And you can close that out. Yes, we'll leave. And you'll see that this will have this magic little blue button that says refresh to see the changes because you've just saved something. So now, of course, it's not going to find anything else, but you can now select the one that you built out. I'm just going to close this. And then, of course, you can choose where that email comes from. So we know the email is going to my sales team member. They're going to see that it's coming from me. And then you can save and associate. So that is the email that my sales team member gets that notifies them of the lead itself. And I will actually show you, I think that will be safe to show you guys. So this is the email that they receive. Everything that you see with these dollar signs, these are all merge tags. And if anyone has any question about that, I can go back into it and show you. But in essence, it's saying, "Dear Todd, salesman, you have a new Zoho webinar lead that came in. Please review the details." And then I include a whole bunch of stuff that came from the CRM. Your lead ID, your first and last name, the company, your phone, your email, what you were interested in, that description field, which if you guys recall, the description field is the anything we should know ahead of reaching out. That's kind of that, little text box that you were filling stuff out on. And then you can also view this record in the CRM. I included a link directly so they could go in there, and I say, "Now, thanks, now close the deal." And of course I signed it, AKA me. So that way they know, hey, I've got this lead. They've got all of the information that they need to now do their job. But the other thing that happens, you guys can see, you can stack as many emails, as many things as you want inside these conditions. You can even add additional conditions afterwards if you need it. You can also schedule actions. So you guys can see here, I could execute these things by hours, days, minutes, business hours, or business days. This means that, for example, now I was kind of cruel to my team and said, yep, if these things come in live, you guys are going to get them live. But let's say I wanted to send out an introduction to the sales team and to you guys. I could do that tomorrow and just make this one day after the date. So if you guys fill out the form at 1:36 p.m. Central Standard Time on 10/29, that means tomorrow at 1:36 on 10/30, you guys could get that email. But we kind of operate quickly in my line of work. So this is the email that you guys will receive. And you guys can see here the name. It's a web lead introduction. The recipient in this case is the lead email. So that's the email that you guys gave me. And I don't have any other additional recipients. And then I've got my template here. Now, you guys, if you fill out that form, you guys are going to see that it does come from me. So you guys will see something from mfishman@onemvt.com. More than likely, please check your spam filters, just in case you do fill that out. But this is the actual email that you're going to receive from me. Hello, your first name. In a few moments, I'll be trying to give you a call regarding your interest in answering services. But prior to that, I'd love to briefly introduce you to myself and our company. And I talk about answering service one. I'd love to learn more about your business. Have a wonderful day. We look forward to connecting soon. And then a nice little logo. So that gets sent out immediately after. So you guys can see this is kind of the whole chain, right? You come to this page, you read through the information, you go, oh my God, this definitely applies to me. Here's my name and here's my title, here's my company, here's my phone number, my email. I'm definitely interested in that BPO because Mark said that he could do my own emails and I don't want to do my emails anymore. And I'm going to come here and say, I talked to Mark. He was fantastic. I want him to do all my emails for him. Fill out the CAPTCHA and then send it now. And then poof, you guys then trigger this form, which talks to the CRM and it gets tagged. Things get updated. People get emailed. People are notified. And then in an ideal world, when this webinar is over and I tell my sales team it's okay, they might go ahead and reach out to you. They might send you a personal email. They might try giving you a call, leaving you a voicemail. And then over time, we kind of take a look and, we get into all of the, bric-a-brac of actual sales, the sales side of my director of sales and marketing position. So before I jump back out into the slides, questions here?
I want to give everyone a chance to send in any kind of overall questions they have. If I could just kind of go through and summarize those things so we can get just a really clear idea of where the different parts of this process live, I think that would be helpful. So I, as a potential customer who want to hire you to manage all my emails, which sounds great, would go to Zoho sites, and that would be it. Like I wouldn't go anywhere else except your website.
Yeah, you would literally go to answeringservice1.com/webinar-landing-page. Now, I could have told them to make that easier. I could have had them make that be Zoho, just answeringservice1.com/webinar, or depending on how you guys like to share links out, you guys could use tiny URLs, or you could post this on your social media. If you're hosting your own webinar and you wanted to send people to a landing page, you could always do like I did, drop those links into the chat. But essentially, you're using Zoho sites to produce this single page, and then you're going to share out that URL however you would normally share out a URL. And a would-be customer, this is the entire thing they have to worry about. The only thing as a would-be customer, I'm reading this information, I'm going, oh my God, I'm absolutely interested in this, followed by filling out the form and hitting submit.
Awesome. So I love that as a customer because I don't want to have to think about anything that goes on behind the scenes. But then it seems like on your end, even though this is kind of automating this whole communication process, so the formatting lives in Zoho Forms and all of the data and automation lives in CRM. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. Yep. We use Forms because Forms has, for me personally, the reason why I particularly like it in this particular case, let me leave there, is that Forms has all of these fields that make it easier for me to collect information in an easier way. So now this is a lead intake form. It is purposefully meant to be very simple, but let's say that you have a more complex business. Or you want to include things like things that I didn't do. I could have put a radio button here that said, how do you prefer I reach out to you? Phone or email? Or do you have a particular time that you'd like to set up an appointment? I could have a date and time box so you could actually program that in. If I wanted to share a website, if I wanted to put images in there, if I wanted to put a star rating, all of these little tools you guys have, these are the basic fields. There's also way cooler stuff in here as well if you want to include signatures and all other sorts of jazz. So I use Forms because of that builder, and then I use the integrations into CRM so that all of that data walks over to the spot that I need to trigger the information. And actually, to that point, Victoria, I think the really good thing to hit on here is I want everyone's process to be as easy as possible. So I want my customers to have one place to go. I want my salespeople to have one thing to do. So if I'm just doing my normal job, getting yelled at on Click, I go look at Click. Click says, hey, you got something to go check your email, because they might be on the phone. They might be doing other things. Great. I'm going to immediately go check my email. The email includes the link. I just click the link. It brings me right to the CRM, directly to the lead I have to work with all of the information already inside the CRM. I don't have to go crawling through an email or whatever. But because I will say one of the cooler things about my process in particular, if I get to pat myself on the back on this one, is let's say I have one of my sales team members today who is taking her child to the doctor, but she still wants to be able to do her job. She gets buzzed on her phone. I've included all of your information in that email. If she checks her email on her phone, she could actually give you a call at the doctor's office and let you know, hey, I'd love to talk to you, Victoria, about these emails that you'd like to automate. Can I give you a call later today? I'd like to get back in front of my computer. Absolutely, thank you very much. So I try to give everybody all of the ammo that they need to directly work this out. And again, to keep it back to my thesis here, right? It's all about problems and solutions. If I had a problem with this process, I would define that problem, think about the solution outside of Zoho, and then use Zoho to make my solution happen. So there's a million ways that this could be augmented. This is just a particular way we found it works for us and my team.
Cool. I think, yeah, I mean, that was a great overview. It looks like we don't have like huge overarching questions. So would you rather do kind of the smaller feature questions now, or once you get through the rest of the slides?
Oh, I think the only other slide I had left was just the dilapidated illustration of me saying thank you and are there any questions? So we can dive into the nitty-gritty stuff.
Most important slide. Yeah, so just so the audience all knows, now's a great time. If there was something that Marc did that you were like, that's really interesting, I want to know more about that, feel free to let us know now. We have a good amount of time left. Not a huge amount, but enough that Marc could probably go back to one or two of those things and walk through them a little bit more. So we have a couple of questions about a few aspects of this. So one question is about deliverability for automatic emails. Is that something that you've dived into with this process?
A bit. When it comes to, I assume that we're talking about like, okay, so if I trigger an email in the process that I just showed, what is the likelihood that it shows up in my customer's inbox, not their spam folder?
Mm-hmm.
So that is, a combination of answers that I think Zoho gets to answer more than I do. But I would say probably 85% of the time, my emails do land in people's normal inboxes. Some of that has to do, I believe, specifically around, the actual URLs and the things that you are kind of populating what's coming out of your URL. So like as a example here, my introduction that goes to you comes from mfishman@onemvt.com. If your customers, if your inbox, if your email provider sees that and goes, oh, I don't know those people, you get tossed in. It just happens. Now, the really cool part of CRM, and I wish I could share some of this with you, but I can't without sharing some of my customer data, so I can't. CRM actually shows you who opens emails and don't. So when these emails go out, let's say that Victoria filled out my lead. Victoria's file in leads, on the left-hand side, there is something that has triggered emails, and it will show you, oh yeah, we sent this email to her, and you can actually find out if she opened it or not. So this is actually one of the things that one of my salesmen does all the time. In fact, he does it every Friday. He goes, he drives his entire workflow himself through CRM because he likes to. He sends out a blast email to all of his people that are in our sales funnel that he's had conversations with that might be somewhere, like I'm still trying to decide, I'm not really sure. He sends a quick email out on Friday night going, hey everyone, I hope you had a great week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend and you stay safe. And just to let you know, if you need anything in the meantime, please let me know. And I hope to talk to you next week. And he sends that out. When he starts his day on Monday morning, he goes to CRM. He sees who opened that email, and he starts calling those people back first because he knows, hey, they're engaged. They saw my email. They're interested. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I feel like I could do a whole, not even one webinar, a whole series of webinars on email deliverability. So I just wanted to touch on it because I know it's something that everyone kind of tackles differently. But it's definitely something that, it's just this whole like mixture of different aspects. But yeah, I think using using the feature of being able to tell who's opened your email is really good, especially because you get kind of to the point where you're getting like the quality of knowing someone opened their email
Yes.
in a way that, you know, you might not otherwise get.
And if I can actually just hang an ornament on this one and earn extra credit with the teacher, when it comes down to it, one thing all marketers should just take a big, deep Zen breath on and just come to the same conclusion I have. No single email you will ever send is going to be the difference between a huge sale or not. And if you don't happen to get to someone's inbox, or if they look at it and delete it, it is not the end of the world. The buzzword term you need to adopt and enjoy is omni-channel marketing. So one of the things that I did not do, but I very well could. So let's say problem solution thinking, right? Let's say this webinar ends and none of you filled out my form, and I go, drats, you guys didn't care at all. Or maybe you cared, but you kept hearing how, oh my God, one of his sales team guys is going to call me, and if they're as obnoxious as he is, I don't want to talk to him. Maybe you are that millennial type that hates the phone and don't want anyone to call you. I could have put SalesIQ on this landing page so that while you were here and you got down to that landing page, you go, whoa, 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 whoa. I am not giving him my phone number. Oh, but I could live chat with him? Oh, I can do that. We could install that here, which would be another way to send leads back to the CRM. And that could be another webinar someday.
Truly, so many places that we could go.
Yes.
It seems like right now a lot of the questions that people have really come down to kind of the difference between, you know, where you're sending off these notifications from, why you're, you know, signaling something in forms rather than doing it in CRM. So I'd love if you could talk a little bit more, because I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think this is a really good and helpful point. Talking through the the kind of like reasons for like, well, here's why I would set this off here, even though I could do it over here instead.
Gotcha. So like when we were talking and I said like, hey, I'm going to add an element here, and then I showed we've got these type of forms. So as I was saying, like the difference between a CRM form and a Zoho form, it really comes down to that problem and solution of what do you want this form to do? And your answer may be CRM integrated, it may not be. The thing is, in my particular case, I could have done this in CRM form, and honestly, there would have been no difference here. I would have built this exact same form inside CRM, and it would be the same integration. I happened to do it this way because the first time around, I happened to use Zoho Forms and I liked it. Now, this is because my solution required the CRM integration. But the reason why you would do a Zoho form versus CRM form comes down to these integrations and what you want to have happen when that form ends. So depending on what problem you're trying to solve, as a prime example here, this form is integrated with Zoho CRM. You can integrate a form with only one application at a time. Yeah, I can't actually show you on top here, but you guys can see you can integrate your Zoho web form with Zoho Campaigns to automatically add contacts when someone submits a form. So as a prime example of a difference maker, let's say in your particular case, person listening to this webinar right now, you're going, well, I don't need them to be in my CRM. I want them to fill out my landing page form. And now I want to trigger a drip campaign of emails where they learn a whole bunch of new stuff about my company through a series of 270 bite-sized pieces of content that I've meticulously laid out in Zoho Campaigns. Well, then in this case, you would integrate a Zoho form that has a Zoho campaign integration. And in this particular case, I would basically unspool from CRM. I would choose campaigns and then select the campaign that I want it to send to. And you guys can see there's a lot of different places that you guys can go. So that's really the primary difference. If you were just going to be CRM focused, you could keep that CRM as the form you'd work out of. But if you have something more advanced, you could use Zoho Forms. And I'll be honest, I don't know what big in forms are. But of course, I'm mildly curious, and I probably will check that out afterwards. So
it's just another application that has the forms in there. Basically, what I like to think about is I would like to use as few applications as possible in a day, which, while it sounds counterintuitive, a big way that works is by taking something where you say, all right, are you already using CRM? Are you already using Begin? All right, then you're also going to do this in there, and that way you don't have to pick up a whole new application just to do this one thing.
And all I say is that it's never as scary as you think it's going to be, so long as you've got the problem and solution written out ahead of time.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to fish through these questions. Got a lot of very good questions. So heads up, some of these questions are a little more specific to your own use case. Again, feel free to email me if I don't get to your question today. I will try and get an answer, or if it's Marc specific, I can pass it on to Marc to try and get you an answer. One, I guess we have a lot of questions about emails. So do you want to use a couple of your last few minutes talking about sort of just the feeding process of this into campaigns, how this makes using campaigns easier, what kinds of emails you send out that way?
Sure.
Anything like that.
So when it comes down to it, again, depending on what you would like to have happen when a form is filled out, it really does boil down to that use case. But here's a thing that you can do is, let's say that everyone here comes in, they fill out all of this stuff. You guys give me the leads or whatever, and we've got them. They're inside my CRM. They're assigned to various people, and all that's great. Now, let's say, we had, 200 registrants for this, and, miraculously 200 of you signed up and said, yeah, I'm interested. Show me something. There's no way my sales team is going to call through all of you, in a day. And really, you may call and say, I'm kind of interested, but I'm not really super interested. No thanks, leave me alone. Now, as a marketer, I might go, okay, I respect that, but maybe I want to send you something softer. So I would go to Zoho Campaigns. What I would wind up doing is I would use leads to generate that list. I would basically create a filter inside CRM that filters by that Zoho webinar tag. I would then export that list, and there's a couple different ways to do that. I mean, I would take you through that, but I think that I get my hand slapped if I share all my customer data with you. So you would just export that list from your leads, save that, and then you go to Zoho Campaigns. You would import that as a new list, and then send it up like you would any other time. Now, I will highlight here again the one. I'm not going to call it this is not a detractor, but the one thing to keep in mind, you can only integrate one of these things. So if you want to go the campaign route instead of the CRM route, you can absolutely do that. So depending on how your marketing funnel looks, perhaps you say, fill out my landing form or my landing page form, go to campaigns, get my email, click on my email, and after you've clicked on that email, now you qualify for being the lead. You would then use campaigns to send anyone who clicks on that email into CRM, assign them a score, or trigger some other rules. That would be kind of we might do that for the next webinar, right? We could talk about Zoho Campaigns funneling into the CRM, because to me, it's all about driving marketing messages into the CRM so that you can stay organized and you can have things worked on using all of those fancy workflows and all the things that get triggered when those things happen.
Thank you so much, Marc. This was so helpful. Thank you for all the work you did on this.
It's not, I mean, if it looks like it was a ton of work, I think this is a really good thing to end on. In fact, if I this thing, does this let me jump? Yeah. Okay. So let's just double back on this one, guys. Define the problem, define the solution, use Zoho to make this work. Everything I showed you today, I promise you, got done in about 2.5 hours, stem to stern. Now, granted, my content was built off my homepage, so I didn't have to go and write a bunch of content. But everything I showed you, creating the landing page, creating the form, tying the form to the CRM, fixing my CRM because I did something backwards, then triggering all those emails and notifications, testing it with Victoria, and then tweaking a couple of things, 2.5 hours tops. And when you assign this to your marketing director and they take 2 weeks for it, this is where you guys can just go back and find me, write me, and then I'll do it for you next time.